Tucker Carlson likes to brand himself as a real man of the people.
Politicians, big business, the media, they are all on the same side.
Taking on the liberal elite.
Now Democrats have become the party of the elite professional class.
And standing up for everyday Americans.
It's not a left-right thing, it's a ruling class versus everybody else thing.
He wrote a whole book about how America's selfish ruling class is bringing the country to the brink of revolution.
Division helps them maintain their power, even as it destroys our country.
The Atlantic even called him the bow-tied bard of populism.
The actual problem is the corrupt and decadent leadership of our own elites. The elites, liberal elites. It is sickening, and we've had enough of it.
There's just one problem with Tucker's man of the people shtick.
You're about the most unordinary person I know. You're an elitist. You're an asshole.
No. But see, I'm an out of the closet elitist. I don't run around pretending to be a man of the people. I'm absolutely not a man of the people at all.
Yeah. Tucker's full name is Tucker Swanson McNear Carlson. His stepmom is the heiress to the Swanson frozen food empire. He went to an elite boarding school in Rhode Island, got famous for wearing bow ties on national television, and has spent his professional career bouncing between cushy cable news jobs. By all measures, Tucker Carlson is a member of the American elite.
How do you pay your bills?
Well, I'm extraordinarily loaded just from money I, inherited.
You're a trust fund baby, are you not?
No, completely. I've never needed to work. It's all just the whole cable news thing. It was like a phase I was going through.
So what is going on here? Why would a guy who bragged about being an out-of-the-closet elitist host a show where he rails against the ruling class? There's actually a pretty simple explanation for Tucker's new shtick, and it's called false consciousness.
But see, I'm an out-of-the-closet elitist. I don't run around pretending to be a man of the people.
The elites, to whom the rest of us mere plebes look on in awe.
I'm absolutely not a man of the people at all.
False consciousness is one of those phrases that grad students use to sound smart at parties. But essentially, it's a term in Marxist theory that describes when working class people are tricked into accepting their exploitation. So let's say you and your coworkers are feeling frustrated and start thinking of forming a union. To stop you, your boss might say,
"You don't need a union. The real problem is all these women taking maternity leave. If they weren't taking so much time off, we'd all be able to go home right now."
Or they might say,
"It's these damn privileged millennials. They're so obsessed with work-life balance that we all have to pick up the slack. Get mad at them."
The boss convinces the workers to accept their exploitation by pointing their anger in the wrong direction. Or as Tucker Carlson would say,
one thing you learn when you grow up in a castle and look out across the moat every day at the hungry peasants out in the village is you don't want to stoke envy among the proletariat.
Thanks, Tucker. So how do you keep the hungry peasants in the village from storming the castle? Enter Tucker Carlson Tonight.
The show that is the sworn enemy of lying, pomposity, smugness, and groupthink.
Since it launched in 2016, Tucker's show has been a festival of false consciousness, bombarding viewers with an endless supply of culture war bullshit.
Could transracial be the new transgender? What's upsetting about lady-specific Doritos? If yoga is racist, is hot yoga more racist?
To be fair, this isn't unique to Tucker. Fox News' MO is using culture war stories to distract from right-wing economics. But what makes Tucker unique is how often he uses the language of anti-elitism while ignoring real exploitation. Take the 2017 Republican tax cuts, for example.
It's the largest tax cut in the history of our country, and reform.
Republicans spent months promising their tax cuts would help the middle class, including during several segments on Tucker's show.
This is really about a middle-income tax cut.
Okay.
That, of course, turned out to be a scam. The overwhelming majority of those tax cuts went to corporate shareholders and CEOs.
It's a giveaway to the very rich, permanent tax cuts for corporations, and almost nothing for the average person.
So what was Tucker Carlson, populist hero, talking about the week that happened?
Racist trees. In Palm Springs, California, city officials are planning to clear-cut a grove of tamarisk trees because they're racist.
Ah, yes. Racist trees.
I'm willing to believe you that there was racist intent in planting these trees. Why are we punishing the trees for that?
Tucker spent twice as long talking about this random tree story as he did about the tax cuts.
Does that seem a little unfair? If you were a tree, you might feel a little differently.
This is false consciousness in action. Convince workers to focus their rage at targets that don't matter.
Racist trees.
And they'll be too distracted to notice the ones that do.
It's a giveaway to the very rich.
Don't want to stoke envy.
Tucker does this all the time. Last May, Congress rolled back regulations meant to stop Wall Street from creating another financial crisis.
The financial institutions spent $200 million in lobbying.
This is the kind of thing real populists hate.
Big money rules and the needs of ordinary people gets ignored.
But Tucker didn't mention the rollback once. Instead, he was dedicating multiple segments to a random dude who refused to move out of his parents' house, which Carlson saw as proof that millennials were too entitled.
I think that probably does have something to do with the safe space movement.
So just to recap, instead of talking about bank deregulation, we got one multimillionaire complaining to another multimillionaire about how millennials are too entitled. False consciousness.
Amazing the country this is becoming. We're dedicated to chronicling it for you in all detail.
Last February, Trump made it easier for lenders to give out predatory payday loans, which trapped working class people in cycles of debt they can't get out of.
Many of these loans have interest rates of 400%.
The move was a huge win for predatory lenders, who Democrats have been trying to regulate for years.
This is a lobby that's extraordinarily powerful. They have members, and the members want results.
But Tucker didn't mention the move once. Instead, he spent the week blaming Democrats for focusing on identity politics.
Elections in this country used to be based on issues, or that was the common agreement anyway. The left is too distracted by global warming or the lack of transgender SEAL teams to pay any attention.
You spent 3 days on the racist tree story. False consciousness. Okay, last one. In May, House Republicans passed huge cuts to Medicare and Medicaid.
This bill cuts taxes for massively high-income people by hundreds of billions and cuts the health care of low and middle-income Americans by hundreds of billions.
If there was ever a time to get mad at the elite, this was it.
I think this is one of the largest pure redistributions from poor to rich in one bill we've ever seen.
But Tucker Carlson treated the whole thing like a big joke.
The left has had a full psychotic break.
Then he turned to the stories that really matter. Atheists getting rid of a park bench in Pennsylvania, Michael Moore saying something mean about Trump, and a random academic paper suggesting we should eat bug meat.
When Al Gore starts serving crickets for lunch on his private jet, I'm in.
The largest redistribution from poor to rich we've ever seen.
Don't want to stoke envy.
The goal of Tucker's show isn't to challenge the elite. It's to make sure you never realize who they are. To get you so mad at atheists, feminists, immigrants, millennials, trans people, college students, pot smokers, vegans, the NFL, Brooklyn witches, and Lena fucking Dunham that you don't get mad at the people who are actually in charge.
If you care about America, you ought to oppose the exploitation of Americans. For now, those leaders will have to be Republicans. There's no option at this point.
Tucker Carlson isn't a populist, he's a safety valve. A way to make sure that if the hungry peasants in the village get angry, they don't take it out on the party giving tax cuts to him or his multi-billionaire boss.
You're his bitch.
I'm 100% his bitch. Whatever Mr. Murdoch says, I do. I would be honored if he would cane me the way I cane my workers, my servants.
He's a phony. And if that sounds harsh, don't take it from me. Take it from Tucker Carlson. In 2003, talking about Bill O'Reilly, the man whose Fox News slot he would one day take over.
I think there's kind of a deep phoniness at the center of his shtick, because it's sort of built on this perception that he is the character he plays. He is every man, this kind of, he's not right-wing, he's a populist, fighting for you against the powers that be. And that's great as a shtick, but I'm just saying the moment that it's revealed not to be true, it's over, right? Because the whole thing is predicated on the fact that he is who he says he is, and just nobody is that person, especially not someone who makes $1 million, or many millions a year.